Disclaimer: I do not own anything I show, nor am I an expert on the stuff that I'm talking about. Hello, Marco again, and this month I'm going to give you 3 fanfic recommendations. Since it's been a while from my last video about fanfic recommendations, here is a quick recap of what I'm going to do in this video. 1. I'm going to give you the name of the story and its author. 2. I'm going to give a brief summary of what the story is about. 3. I'm going to give my opinion on what makes this story worth reading. Just a disclaimer beforehand. These are some of my personal favorites in terms of fanfics. However, just because I like these fanfics doesn't mean that you have to like them too. Also, not all of them are completed or ever will be completed, but that doesn't mean that they aren't worth reading. So let's begin. The first fanfic I'm going to talk about is a Steven Universe fanfic called A Tale of a Jade by FANFIC. Now a summary. Our story is about Marcus Castelanos, an 18-year-old Latino who is also a half-gem human hybrid. Only he wasn't as lucky as Steven with his family. Marcus was raised by his abusive father after his mother died, for which his father blames him. He fled his father and started traveling through the country fighting gem monsters with guns, Steven Universe takes place in America, and other weapons and shattering them. That is until he gets to Beach City, where he meets the crystal gems, and there he learns that he isn't the only gem human hybrid and that he isn't alone. He is allowed to stay with them as long as he teaches Steven about being a half gem. And from there the story follows the storyline of the show, with some extra things added that are connected to Marcus' past and his biological family. Why I chose this story. What makes this story worth reading is what Marcus adds to the world of Steven Universe, like learning about his backstory, what his life was like before he met the crystal gems, what his father did to him, how Marcus and Steven developed their powers together, and other more mature elements that are added to the story, like the heavy usage of guns by Marcus. Overall, I believe that this fanfic is a great example of how to add an OC into an already exciting story. The next fanfic I'm going to talk about is a Star vs. the Force of Evil fanfic called A Dance with Destiny by jon-ur. Now the summary. The story is about Cosmos Butterfly, the older brother of Star Butterfly, who was discarded at birth because he was of the male gender. In this AU there were some terrible butterfly kings in the past that screwed up so badly that it practically became tradition to get rid of the male-born princess born to the queen in order to prevent such tragedies in the future. The midwife Doria was tasked by the queen to bring the baby to the forest of certain death to be left for dead. However, a couple of monsters saved the baby and convinced Doria to stay with them because she couldn't return with the knowledge that the baby was still alive. Doria named the baby Cosmos and helped the monsters raise the boy, including teaching him about his heritage and how to act like a normal human. When he became 14 years old, he went back to Mewni and tricked King River into making him his squire. Now Cosmos tries to claim the throne to become an honorable king of Mewni. Why I chose this story? The reason why I chose it is because it shows a story outside of the main storyline of Star vs. the Force of Evil, but one that is connected to it, which adds some extra threads to the already existing story. It adds some medieval flair to the story with little things like having the room where Cosmos was born have as little light as possible, because in medieval times here on Earth, people believed that light would damage a woman in labor along with her child. There's also a little Game of Thrones reference in the story, which was nice for me because I have read a good chunk of the Game of Thrones books myself. Although this story is far from being finished, it is still a great alternative universe fanfic for all that it adds to Star vs. Force of Evil, including the memorable references. The last fanfic I'm going to talk about is a Splatoon fanfic called GRAYSCALE by the writer of Sirius. Now the summary. The story takes place after the story events of Splatoon 2, which the world of Splatoon is under threat again. However, it's not by Octavio trying to steal the Great Sapfish. No, this time it's an organization of Octolings and Inklings named GRAYSCALE who are trying to take over the world with old weapons of the Great War. Sadly, this threat is too much for the Squidbeak's platoon alone to handle, so they get help of Taskforce 1, an elite force of Inkopolis army made of a crack team of Inklings and Octolings. They also get unexpected help of a young Inkling hybrid named Calibri, who is not only going to save the world, but also learn about her past and also discover a family she thought she didn't have. Now these people must save the world from the evil forces of GRAYSCALE and their diabolical plan to take over the world before the next Splatfest begins. Why I chose this story? Although I made the story sound kind of cheesy in summary, it is far from it. If you look up this story, you will see that it is a crossover with the popular game series Call of Duty. The story provides a great mixture between the seriousness of Call of Duty mixed with the cartoonishness of Splatoon. An example of this would be when the realistic weapons get mixed in with an attack of the Octo Stomp. When the Inklings or Octolings get shot, they will turn into a puddle of ink like in the games. But sadly they do die because it's outside of a turf war, adding a melancholic but realistic point of view. But this isn't the only Splatoon fanfic that does it this way. Also, the story adds in a plotline of the young Inkling hybrid Calibri discovering about her past, which adds more depth to the overall fanfic and provides a nice camaraderie of a platoon soldier and the battlefield action. To conclude this month's video, I hope that you will check out and read these fanfic recommendations that I personally enjoy, and I hope you will have as much fun as I had when I read those stories.